The Jaguar X150 series, the top 10 most common faults to watch out for. This video is the ultimate buyer's guide to the X150 series. Click the link above for the playlist of videos about many of these common faults and how to fix them. The various year models have different common faults, which means you need to know which year car you're looking at. And to help you ascertain the model, these are the different features. Following from the X100 series of Xk8 and XKR, the X150 series was announced in 2005 and delivered from 2006. The big change for the X150 cars was it was an all-aluminium body, which resulted in 90 kilo weight advantage, giving better performance and lower fuel consumption. Visually, the front oval grille was larger than the X100, with a second narrow grille below. In what appeared to be a taller car than the X100, as opposed to that single oval grille and the cigar shape of the Jaguar XK8. The X150 year models of 2006 carried over the 4.2 V8 engine from the X100 series. The top speed was limited to 250 miles per hour. There was a 4.2 XKR S model in 2008 with an adjusted top speed of 174 miles per hour. Distinguishing differences between the 4.2 and the 5 litre car of 2009 can be seen in the recessed side lights and the larger lower grille and the vertical side panel. The 5 litre motor arrived with the first facelift, where the side light was replaced with a curved air intake and the shifter changed from a J-gate gear shift to a pop-up rotary dial. The second 5 litre facelift of 2011 showed a more aggressive lower grille with larger chrome-coloured intakes, where the side lights had been in the 4.2, and also along with daylight running lights. The 2012 year model added a reversing camera. The return of the XKRS as a 5 litre model was also in 2012 with a much more aggressive grille and a bigger rear spoiler with a limited top speed of 186 miles per hour. And finally there was the XKRS GT, which came in 2013 with an even bigger front grille and a raised spoiler on the back. Once you've confirmed which model you're looking at, you can then be sure of what you're about to purchase. The main takeaway is that all year models are mostly reliable, if maintained correctly and treated well. There is some discussion that the 4.2 motor is more reliable than the 5, but I think that's mostly hearsay. Even if the 4.2 were more reliable, it would be by a small margin. But what's more important is the value proposition. The 4.2 models are offered second-hand in the lower price range, with all being equal, the cost escalating up with each year, and of course the rarity of the special models. Of the main production models, discounting specials, the 2011 facelift XKR seems to hold its price better and is deemed to be the car that will be more valuable as a classic in the future. It's a balance though, but condition and maintenance service records generally should count for more than the age or the mileage. Low mileage is not always a good thing, as the V8 engine is designed to be used, so cars that have been sitting doing nothing can deteriorate quicker than higher mileage cars that have been well maintained. Again, it's a balance, and very low mileage cars in their teens will have an intrinsic higher value, even though the proposition of a higher mileage car could require less maintenance in the future. Maintenance is not just a mileage thing, it needs to be done at set times. Oil changes are needed annually, no matter what the mileage. And also be aware that cars that have sat for several years will have stale fuel in the tank. At the end of the day, the V8 engine will be good for several hundreds of thousands of kilometres. It's the running gear that will need to keep up with it. And again, with any car, it's the regular service that's important. For pricing purposes, treat cars in the currently most popular range, that's 60,000 to 80,000 Ks, as pretty much equal. Cars in the teens will be more expensive. 30 to 60,000 are priced together. 100,000 to 200,000 is a lower category again, and those over 200,000 being even a lower value. And when you're deciding within these categories, again, it's the car that's got the good service record that's the best value, depending on condition. I can't give any indicative pricing as it varies vastly from country to country. Look at the price ranges advertised in your location and be aware that the advertised price is not the price that the car is going to be sold for. But at least it'll give you some feeling what you should be paying after negotiations. Industry price guides like the Red Book in the UK and the USA won't be much help, nor will insurance values. They'll tend to be lower than the prices that the cars are actually selling for. So from this point, I'll discuss the common faults that you need to look out for now that your model year and mileage and condition is sorted in your mind. And this is the list of categories, from the least important to the most important. And at the end, I'll list the 10 most important things to watch out for from each of the following categories. Starting with number 10, running costs. You can check for average fuel consumption and average speed by using the trip computer on the left stalk of the steering wheel. That's while the ignition is on. And this will tell you two things that'll give you an indication of how the car's been driven. Press the trip button twice to see the average speed that's been clocked up. Press the button 5 times in total to tell you the average fuel consumption. And the average fuel consumption should be in the vicinity of Xk 4.2, 25 miles per gallon, XKR 4.2, 22.9 miles per gallon, Xk 5 litre, 25.2 miles per gallon, and the XKR 5 litre, 23 miles per gallon. Now number 9, modifications. Always ask the current owner if any modifications have been added to the car. This will give you an idea how the car's been treated, and also more importantly, you'll need to be aware that modifications will increase your insurance costs. Common items that may have been done to the car could be upgraded exhaust, remap and pulley upgrade to an XKR, or even larger wheels. The 4.2 Xk and XKR and the Xk 5 litre came with 19-inch and optional 20-inch wheels. The XKR 5 litre was standard at 20-inch. Just as a final thought, modifications can indicate that the car may have been used for track work, so check that out too. Next, number 8, infotainment. It pays to check all of the infotainment systems to see everything's working. Check that the whip antenna is operating. It was replaced with a fixed antenna on the 4.2 models as from 2008. Check reception for the radio. And it's a bonus if Apple CarPlay Android has been added, as this would have cost around $2,000 to install, and the standard infotainment system and GPS is, to say the least, out of date, if just not plain clunky. Number 7, interior. Check the heated and cooled seats, as the temperature sensors can fail. And also on some of the later models, there'll be a heated steering wheel, so check that out too. Check the seat position memory buttons operate. Check the electronic handbrake. And to do that, stop the car on an incline, and while the engine's still running, apply the electronic handbrake. It should hold the car in place and then automatically release as you drive away. The headlining is prone to sag, and this is a very common fault, so look for loose material on the A-pillars and any signs of sagging, particularly around the rear window. The dropping glove box is also a common issue, where that soft opening mechanism fails and the glove box opens sharply. It's a fairly easy DIY fix, but it'll give you some bargaining room on price. Check for damp footwells, which can occur from a blocked air conditioning drain, mostly on the earlier cars. And this is very expensive to fix. Also, the smell of dampness is just about impossible to remove completely. But as a bonus, if the service record shows this as being attended to, you're on a winner. The issue was supposed to have been solved with the 5 litre model, but check for dampness anyway. Number 6, body. The X150 has an all-alloy body with many alloy suspension components, but there are still some steel items in the suspension and to hold the front bumper, as well as the wheel arch liners and the under tray. Just because it's aluminium, it doesn't mean you're out of the woods. You can expect aluminium corrosion, usually in small patches, and also look out for dents and poorly repaired damage. Aluminium bodywork is expensive to fix by a specialist repairer. Also, special painting skills are required to avoid blistering and peeling. Also check that the plastic headlights are not cloudy. Again, this is something that can be done DIY, but it's a bargaining chip. If looking at a convertible, the rear glass glue can be a common issue. And number 5, running gear. The suspension is on steel subframes which can rot along the seams, so take a look at their condition. Surface rust is common. The car has double wishbones throughout, which means that the worn bushes will be common on high mileage cars, so anything over 100,000 Ks and definitely needed by 150,000 Ks. You can check while driving the car and aiming at a target and then turning while braking. Failing lower arm bushes will make the car feel imprecise, while the worn front arm bushes can cause a wobble when braking. Check for uneven tyre wear as another indicator of those worn bushes. Active dampering is standard on the XKR. Jaguar call it computer aided technology, that's CATS. It was optional on the normally aspirated cars. Worn damper bushes will cause a hollow rattle. The electronic components inside the dampers tend to wear out by 150,000 Ks. Build this into an expected cost if the car is at that mileage and the dampers have not been replaced. I mentioned checking the tyres for uneven wear, and it may seem obvious, but don't forget to check the tyres for age. Old tyres can go brittle and split. They definitely need to be replaced after 10 years of age. Factor that into a cost you'll need to do immediately after acquiring the car. TPMS is a tyre management system, and a warning light will illuminate on the dash panel. The sensors are prone to failure and can erroneously indicate a suspension problem. 9 out of 10 though, it's a sensor problem and not a suspension issue. Next, you should check the brake calipers when the car doesn't pull up squarely, or if one wheel is noticeably hot. Check the shape of the alloy wheels, especially the 20-inch rims, for warping after hitting potholes. Number 4, engine bay. Thermostat failure is the biggest issue in the engine bay, and it's common on the 4.2 litre engines between 60 and 100,000 Ks. There's a very simple way to determine if the thermostat is stuck. The motor will be very hot. Unlike the XK8, there's no temperature gauge to check in the X150s. The red indicator light will show in the speedo dial when the engine's hot. This is fairly reliable, but when looking at the car to buy, feel the radiator. It should be comparatively much cooler than the engine cover. Just touch the radiator and the plastic engine cover to check. And while checking the radiator, look for it becoming clogged with leaves. If there are old leaves around the radiator, check for any corrosion in the adjoining pipework. And if the car is over 80,000 K, check that the transmission oil and filter have been changed. If there's no service records, factor in the cost $400 to $500 for parts and 2 hours labour. Also in the engine bay are 2 pedestrian sensors that activate the pedestrian contact sensing bonnet system. Faulty pedestrian sensors are a common issue, and they can be easily damaged with minor touches, just the number plate touching a garage door or even hitting a pothole. And be aware that pedestrian sensors are one of those gremlins that can show when there have been battery issues. And if you're buying the car, assume that both sensors will need replacing. Budget $400 at about an hour's labour. They can be done DIY. Timing chains can be an issue on the 4.2 litre cars. Check for any chain noise when the car is idling. Ignore the first few seconds from startup. That'll be noisy anyway, but worry if the rattle continues. And if the rattle is loud, don't buy the car. 5 litre cars up to 2012 can also have timing chain issues, but this is usually due to the XKR's variable valve timing and could require a new unit. Don't buy that car. Failed oil level sensor. Check the level manually. That's the same left stalk method I mentioned earlier. Check the link above or the description for a video on this. Catalytic converters can be an issue on the 4.2 engine, and it'll show up as a check engine light in the dashpod. And there are fuel treatments that profess to clean catalytic converters. I've got no recommendations for these. They may work or they may be snake oil. However, in their favour, there are many well-known brands that offer cleaners, so over to you. And now E-Diff. Watch out for this warning code on the 5 litre cars with a message indicating E-Diff system error or dynamic mode not available. E-Diff can also be an issue on the earlier XKR models, which can cause a vibration when cornering and accelerating. But Jaguar should have cured those problems on the earlier cars under warranty. The 4.2 litre car can have perished vacuum hoses that split with a warning light, and when you feel them, they'll be brittle. Replacement tubing is available. Also check that there are very few gases coming from the exhaust. The 4.2 XKR could puff a little oil smoke on cold start. And number 3, coolant. One of the important faults to know is that on the 5 litre engine, it's common for the water pump to fail. The key warning is the sweet warm smell of coolant, or you see pink traces of spilled coolant in the engine bay or below. The smell doesn't linger, so old spills will only be seen with the pink traces. The water pump also sometimes fails on the 4.2 engine at around 80,000 K. Listen out if the cooling fan kicks in, because when it stays on permanently, it'll indicate a coolant issue. And also watch out for coolant leaks under the supercharger in the 5 litre XKR as well. To be really safe, it'd be wise to budget to replace all the pipes in that valley area. And number 2, battery. The battery condition is the biggest cause of what erroneously appears to be a fault in the XK. A new battery should be installed every 4 years as a wise precaution. Whenever there's an unexplained fault on the X150s, first blame the battery rather than anything mechanical. And a big trap when diagnosing faults on the XK is that the battery may appear to be in a good condition now, but the apparent faults could have been caused while the battery was in a low charge condition. And sometimes these ghost faults go away by themselves, and sometimes they stick around as real issues. Think of them as electrical gremlins, and many problems can be traced back to a poor performing battery. But also don't ignore red lights that appear in the speedo dial. Just because you think it's a battery issue, maybe it's not. And if there's no record of a battery change within the last few years, budget to replace the battery as soon as you take delivery of the car. A trickle charger is a sensible choice to prevent the battery draining. The CTEX 5 appears to be the most popular. And also consider a battery jump starter. I'd recommend that if your car sits around a bit and you only take it out every couple of weeks. Connect both the jump starter and the trickle charger in the left hand side luggage compartment. There's a video on that, check in the description below. And finally, number 1 on the list is mechanical inspection. Don't buy the car without a mechanic's inspection. Important that the mechanic is someone that knows Jags, but at least a British car-based mechanic, if no others available. Make sure you get a readout of the codes from the OBD2 port. These are the initial checks that you should have made before talking to an inspection mechanic. Be sure the engine starts properly, idles smoothly, and doesn't blow smoke from the exhaust when accelerated hard. Make sure the automatic transmission goes into gear within a second of the selector being moved into drive or to reverse. Look for rust on the lower areas of the body. Just because the body's aluminium doesn't mean to say there won't be rust in the steel, and it can be expensive to repair. And at the same time, look for previous signs of crash repairs such as mismatched paint or ripples in the finish. Now get the mechanic to check these. This is the checklist for the most important issues. Tick them off as you check them off. Top 10 checklist. Wet carpets. Dash lever at the windscreen. Headlining. TPMS codes. Rust or alloy corrosion or dents. E-Diff warnings. The water pump. Catalytic converters. Battery and the thermostat failure. Look out for pink coolant leaks. Now we've been through all those steps, don't read all of the so-called faults as a reason not to buy a Jaguar X150 series. All cars can have issues, not just Jaguars. And what I'm attempting to do here is to show you those that can be particular to the XK, so you buy the best car available. The X150 series has never really been replaced in the Jaguar lineup, and today it represents the ultimate evolution of the GT, which began with the E-Type. The XK feels like a modern car to drive with a polished and sophisticated aura. It offers both fun and almost supercar performance without the drug dealer image of some Italian cars. There's not much to beat it. Thanks for watching.